over the decision to mandate religiously affiliated employers to provide health insurance for birth control, something White House Press Secretary Jay Carney just spoke about.
As I said yesterday, on January 20th, when this decision was announced, Secretary Sebelius said, quote, "We will continue to work closely with religious groups during this transitional period to discuss their concerns." And I would note that 28 states have similar contraception coverage requirements. And 8 states, as I've mentioned before, do not even have the exemption that this provision requires for churches and houses of worship.
Well, joining me right now is Republican Senator John Hoeven. Senator, I read your statement today, your article. What's going to happen here? How's this going to come down?
Well, I think the administration should reverse the decision. Obviously, we have legislation in the Senate. I'm co-sponsoring it. And you'll see legislation in the House as well to reverse this decision.
What would the legislature, tell me what it says. Does it broaden the exemption to include Catholic universities or religious universities and hospitals and charitable organizations? How broad does the exemption read?
Right. No, that's right, Chris. It expands the conscience clause to make sure that not only religious organizations, but also their affiliates, schools, hospitals, and so forth, are exempted, so they're not put in a position where they have to pay for services that go against their religious and moral beliefs.
Do you have the votes, do you believe, sir, in the House and the Senate as you look at it now? Because Boehner, Speaker Boehner is apparently also moving in the same direction.
Right.
Do you have the votes to get this to the president's desk, this revision?
Well, I believe we will because of the tremendous outpouring of support across the country. You mentioned Catholics, but look, this is all religious groups. This is one of our fundamental principles in terms of freedom of religion and one of the great concerns that people have in regard to the Obama health care program.
Why do you think the president did this? He's running for re-election. I guess Catholics are split 50-50 roughly between the two political parties. It's not a voting bloc, really. It's a bunch of independent voters. Why do you think he risked that support? You're a politician. Why do you think he did it? What did he get out of it?
You know, I don't understand it. Obviously, there was a decision made at Health and Human Services. How directly he was involved in, I don't know. But clearly, it is the wrong decision, and he needs to address it. And I think he needs to address it now. We will move on this in Congress, and I think across this country, one thing people understand is that we are guaranteed religious freedom in this country. So this is a fundamental issue for Americans.
Well, you're a former governor, so I have trust in the fact you know how to work on a bipartisan basis. Governors do that all the time.
Right.
Do you have bipartisan alliances in this regard? Do you have people on the floor of the Senate who are going to back your position on this? Do you know their names?
Yes. Well, you know, we're just getting into this now. We've put the legislation forward. I think you'll see, Chris, that there will be people on both sides of the aisle that support this issue as a fundamental religious freedom that's guaranteed by our country through our Constitution, something that's fundamental to what we believe in.
Well, let me present to you the other side. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Women who work in hospitals that are run by the Catholic Church or any religious organization generally practice birth control. That's generally an American, I guess it's whatever it is, it seems to be the pattern of life in this country. People use birth control for a lot of reasons. Single and married people both. They do it for health reasons as well as birth control reasons, I'm told. Why shouldn't that be covered as part of their health insurance package if they happen to work at, say, Georgetown University Hospital or at Notre Dame or anywhere?
But the issue is requiring that employer, that religious group, to provide that service, the contraceptives, sterilization, and those types of service when it violates their beliefs. That's not to say that somebody doesn't have the ability to go decide to acquire contraception. The issue is requiring somebody to provide it against their religious beliefs.
Would you want to see co-pays, or how would you handle it if you wanted to resolve this? You mean you would have people pay an extra set amount of dollars to get? By the way, the great irony, of course, is people tell me that if you're using birth control, you're basically saving the insurance company money because having a baby costs more money in terms of health costs than practicing birth control. So I'm not even sure why it costs more.
Well, the whole idea with the conscience clause was to exempt religious organizations so they weren't put in this position. But this goes to a more fundamental problem, Chris, and that is when you have government-run health care, these are the kind of problems that are created for Americans. Americans want more control themselves over their health insurance and their health care providers.
Senator, thank you so much for coming on today.